lots of fun with all my friends, dancing around.
Now, there are two main ways that we see Jesus expressing his love for God, his worship. Firstly, Jesus worshipped in private. Mark wrote this about Jesus, Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. And of course, we know that he taught his disciples to pray and said to them, "Go by yourself into your prayer closet and say, 'Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.'" That's worship, spending time with God alone and just revering him and loving him in private. In fact, Rory Noland, an author and musician, wrote this: "If a church wanted to take the next step in improving its worship, I wouldn't rush to change the program or find a new music leader. I would encourage every member to become a personal worshiper." Can you imagine a church largely comprised of people who worshipped privately during the week and then came together on Sunday to worship? Their hearts would be so primed for worship, it wouldn't matter if the music was traditional, contemporary, or blended. And that really impacted me. I need to worship in private. Jesus did that, and his heart was always primed for worship. Is your home a place of worship? Your car, your office? Are these places that you connect with God? In fact, Jesus even said in John chapter 4 that true worshippers can worship anywhere. It's not about place. Not only churches that are sacred, but if your heart is primed for worship, you can worship anywhere. But having said that, Jesus also worshipped with others. As important as personal worship was to him, he also spent much time worshiping with others. Luke 4 verse 16, we read, "He went to Nazareth, where he'd been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue as was his custom." And so he was in the habit of going to church, going to synagogue on Sabbath. He didn't skip. He gathered with others weekly to worship. Constance M. Cherry wrote a book about this, and she says in this book, Jesus served as a lector in the synagogue. He was involved in worship gatherings. He presided at the liturgy of Passover. He led singing. He pronounced blessings upon people. He gave thanks at meals. He led in small group prayer. And all these point to a man who worshipped with others. And in our day, many people choose not to worship in church. Some people stay at home to worship, which can be handy if you can't get to church. But if you're able to go to church, go to church. If you're able to gather with others, gather with others. There's such blessing and growth that comes from being with others in worship. In fact, I've found it's a lot like playing music. You can sit in your room and play your instrument all day long, and you might even get quite good at it. But to get really good at playing an instrument, you have to learn to play with others. And there's more risk when you involve others, more wrong notes that might be hit as you are in others' presence, but there's greater joy when you hit the right notes with others alongside you. Jesus worshipped in private, and he also worshipped with others. Friends, do not neglect either of these two disciplines, but let your life be marked by your deep private worship and your consistent corporate worship in a church. In that way, you will be like Jesus, who valued both of these things.